Thank you, Simran. Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 11. I don't know if we should give 1 more minute or we should just start right away. I think since we are running short of time, I will just start right away. Yeah, so great. It's been quite a journey today. We've explored everything from feasibility and design to financing, digitalization, community ownership, CO2 emission, and so on and so forth, right? I imagine that for those that have joined since morning from the first session, I hope you're not tired yet, as we've now arrived at the final crucial step, which is the market system. Because even the best cold room doesn't achieve much without a reliable path to market. So having the right equipment, solid financial models, and strong local capacity are all essential, but uptake is never automatic. So my name is Daniel Onwude. I am a senior digital sustainability expert with Digital for Planet in Zurich, Switzerland, and I will be moderating this session. Okay, great. Before we introduce the speakers, let me give a bit of introduction as to what we'll be delving into today. So the central idea is that technology alone, such as solar-powered cold storage, is not enough, right? We've heard this from the previous sessions. So from our experience across projects, we've also learned that even reaching up to 60% utilization of the code room can be very challenging. In many cases, that number needs to even be much more higher, right? So without reliable market access, farmers may not achieve the income stability needed to repay or sustain the use of such, innovations. So we are going to hear from several experts and practitioners that have been working in this space for some years now. This expert will talk more, or will talk about different angles from the field research on market systems to business models and enabling policies. And together, we are going to unpack what is working, what is not, and what needs to change, right? So this is very important for us to keep in mind. And then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the panel session. So please write down your questions in the chat box or just write them down, and yeah, we'll answer this at the end of the panel session. Great. Now let's meet our speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Thomas Charo.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you for joining us today. Could you please start by briefly introducing yourself?
Sure. So I'm Thomas, a senior consultant at Hystra. We are a strategic consulting firm based in France and specialized in inclusive businesses. And we can support these businesses that have a social or environmental impact, either by publishing open source reports where we will share key insights, or directly supporting them on the ground with technical assistance.
Great. Thank you so much, Thomas. And then next on my list is Mr. Dennis Karema. Dennis, welcome to this session. Is Dennis there? Okay, no, great. So then we introduce the next person. So next on the list is Mr. Majid Tokura. Mr. Majid, are you there? Okay, we are waiting for our two speakers. So maybe before they join, probably we're going to launch a poll for those that are already here, the audience that are here, just to engage you a little bit. Okay, no, now Majid is ready. So Mr. Majid, thank you so much for joining.
Hi,
welcome. Could you please introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, my name is Majid. I'm a product manager, business analyst. Here in Nigeria, I support one of the projects for BASE, which is a cooling company called Leap and Energy. Right, I've been doing that for the past 1 year, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Majid. I don't know if Mr. Dennis is now ready. Dennis, are you here? Okay, no, then maybe we could just start the conversation with Mr. Thomas and Majid. If that's fine, great. So thank you both really for joining this session. I'm going to start with my first question to you, Dr. Thomas. Probably I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can also share yours, if you have a slide to present.
Thanks, Daniel.
Okay. So my question to you, Mr. Thomas, is because I know you've been leading the agro-PURE research in the Global South. So in your view, what is market access, and why is market access such a critical factor in the success of smallholder adoption of solar cold storage? And in your view, how does this affect farmers' ability to repay and their overall addressability with regards to the market size?
Thanks, Daniel. I think it's a great question. And indeed, at Hystra, with the support of BII, Acumen, Gogla, and SNV, we've conducted over the past few months a study on how agro-PURE companies can ensure their farmers have access to markets. And by agro-PURE, we mean productive use of renewable energy, so solar cold storage companies, but also solar irrigation company or solar processing companies. And what we found is first that the market access is really key to the business model of these cold storage companies. Because if you're offering storage for a fee, farmer won't be willing to pay if they are not sure that at the end of the day, they are able to sell their produce at a good and reliable price. And additionally, what we've observed is that we often hear that cold storage appliances could be used for dozens of millions of farmers. But what we found is that the viable market for solar cold storage appliances is strongly limited by three criteria. And these criteria are displayed here on the Venn diagram. So first, as a cold storage company, you need to ensure that the farmers that you are serving are working in value chains where a cold storage appliance, so not only solar, have a business case. Because if farmers are growing staple crops or even cash crops with a price that is too low, then they won't have a business case for this cold storage appliance. Then the second criteria in green is really the fact that solar needs to be the most cost-effective option. For example, if the appliance is only used a few hours per week, then diesel might be a better alternative because it's cheaper upfront. And also sometimes cold storage is not even needed to increase shelf life and reduce post-harvest losses. For example, tomatoes can be harvested earlier. And finally, the last criteria, and the one that we investigated in our study, is the ability for farmers to have access to a reliable market. And the viable market for solar cold storage companies really sits at the center of this Venn diagram and is much smaller than the potential markets. The only data that we have is for the yellow bubble that approximately 10% of smallholder farmers in Sub-Saharan Africa have access to reliable markets, which means that we will go from the potential dozens of millions to maybe 1 or 2 millions at maximum. Smallholder farmers in Africa that can benefit from these appliances. But the good news is that throughout our study, we've engaged with several PURE companies that have integrated market access. And I hope Denis will join back, so he will share more insights on the different models that SocoFresh has developed for this market access. And while this is quite complex and, of course, requires some cost optimization, for example, using digitalization with apps like Cultivate, early evidence suggests that if you're providing market access, it will strengthen your key metrics as a company. It's what we have represented here on the right graph. So for 4 companies, we have assessed before providing market access, which is the bar in blue, and after providing market access, the bar in orange. And as you can see, the repayment rates and the usage rates have strongly increased. What we found also for an irrigation company is that thanks to market access, they were able to get their pumps financed by MFIs, because often banks and MFIs, they don't really want to finance these expensive assets, especially because smallholder farmers are a very risky population. Because now they know that the farmers have access to reliable market and that they will be able to sell their produce at a good price and pay for the credit at the end of the month. So now they agreed to finance this asset, which is very good both for the farmers, but also for the company, who is now able to reduce its working capital requirements. And finally, on the bottom right, we've engaged with a processing company who found that because they started to provide market access, then their market size increased by a factor of 4. So as we can see here, providing this market access really strengthened the business model of these PURE companies.
Great. Thomas, thank you so much for that great insight. You've basically unpacked this very clearly. You've really showed how critical market access is, not just for farmer success, but also for the overall viability of agro-PURE business model. So this is really good that you touch upon this. And you also mentioned a bit of what you guys are doing with SocoFresh. And talking about SocoFresh, I think we now have Denis back with us. Denis?
Yes.
Super, great. Thanks for joining this session. So could you please introduce yourself and then jump straight to the question, which I'm going to ask you now. So Denis, you've been leading work at SocoFresh, one of the pioneering enterprises, right, in this space in Sub-Saharan. My question to you then is, how do different business models address the challenge of ensuring that farmers could sell their produce at a fair price? And then what has worked well for you guys and what hasn't in your experience?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So my name is Denis Karema. I'm the CEO at SocoFresh. We are one of the pioneers when it comes to providing access to cold storage for smallholder farmers in rural areas, starting in Kenya, but with a focus on most of Sub-Saharan Africa, where we see that post-harvest loss continues to be one of the key issues that limits the farmers' income potential. So from the onset, what we saw as the opportunity is obviously the ability to solve for post-harvest loss. But then the biggest challenges were around, one, farmers are in seasonal value chains. They do not have often the capability to be able to own this infrastructure upfront. But then also, even if they own the infrastructure, they also need technical assistance to be able to make sure that the infrastructure is up and running. And also the fact that storage alone is not a complete solution. They need to have access to a reliable and dependable market for their produce. So what we have done is really innovate our business model around addressing the issues of consistent demand for their produce by either working alongside the off-takers who can off-take the produce, or also running market linkage and market access as part of our business. So that ensures that for any of the farmers that is participating in as a service, if they do not have a market, we can offtake, but then we can also bring along off-takers. And we've actually seen that the biggest challenge for off-takers was mainly on how can they be able to get sufficient volumes of high-quality produce aggregated in an area to be able to make logistics very effective, cost-effective for them. So providing solar-powered cold storage ensures that farmers can aggregate sufficient volumes. It actually becomes an incentive for off-takers to go and procure produce from those farmers, because then logistically the cost per kilo that is, off-takers are very cost conscious. They're able to see that they have a lower cost of being able to aggregate the produce, and that the produce can be in great shape, because as you know, for most of the horticultural produce, the moment it's harvested, if it's not in a temperature controlled environment within the first 3 to 6 hours, then you find that there are quite some quality issues. Sometimes it will be rejected, especially if it's going to high value markets. So we address that by being able to provide innovative ways to get access to the cold storage. You don't need to own the asset. You can get it on pay as you store, or you can be able to lease it as a group and be able to pay a monthly fee. And we guarantee the uptime of the technology by being able to deploy remote monitoring, and also having our technicians available to be able to do both routine maintenance and also observing to see what challenges might the technology have, and proactively addressing those.
Great. Thank you so much, Dennis. This is really insightful. Point on balancing both business viability with farmers' impact. I kind of find it fascinating to see how you guys models are very flexible, like those you've tested, and then how this can make and break, or rather break, farmers' adoption, right? So I think this is nice, and we're going to maybe touch more on this, soon. But before we go to the third speaker, I would like to engage the audience. So please, I would like to bring you to a quick poll. Great. Yes. So the first poll is, why do you think market access remains one of the biggest barriers for smallholder farmers adopting cold chain solutions? So I'm going to give like 1 minute just for everyone to participate. Interesting result. Okay, keeps moving. Yeah, great. I mean, you could see that most people are going for weak logistics and aggregation systems, followed by farmers' low awareness of market opportunities. So I think in my view, any of the answers could be right, because yeah, all these factors affect market access, right? But I mean, it's interesting to see the top barrier, which really aligns with what Thomas just mentioned earlier. So I think this is great for us to see. I would also like to share another poll before we go to the last speaker, just to also maybe touch a bit upon what Dennis had highlighted. So maybe the second poll, please. Okay, great. Now, in your opinion, which business or partnership model holds the greatest potential to drive adoption and scale of solar-powered cold storage in Sub-Saharan Africa? What models do you think hold this great power, so to speak? Okay, yeah, you could see that the audience are leaning more towards the pay-per-use. Okay, this is changed. Interesting. Okay, okay, so most people are going for integration in contract farming schemes, right? Anyway, in any case, the top three are pay-per-use, aggregator-led or cooperative model, and then integration in contract farming in no particular order. Maybe Dennis, do you want to touch upon some of these data that you're seeing there?
Yes, no, I think very interesting results from the poll. So we've seen actually one of the early adopters of cold storage is actually in integrated contract farming, especially because in contract farming, the demand is there, the production support is provided. And one of the main things that was lacking was the aggregation infrastructure. And this is where you find smallholder farmers are given a contract to maybe grow French beans or in a sort of vegetable or fruit. And so it's a very easy add-on to an already organized chain. The other one is a pay-per-use or leasing model, which also ranks high here. We've also seen that in our own business because this really removes the barrier of capex, which is one of the biggest barriers. But then also leasing models also put the liability on making sure the equipment is working well on the person providing the lease service, because also like technical know-how and ability to make sure there is the guaranteed uptime of the technology is also one of the key challenges. So it's also great to see that being highlighted because I also agree with that as one of the key things that needs to happen.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dennis. Thanks a lot. So just in the interest of time, we'll move then to the third speaker, Majid. Majid, your work focuses on strengthening value chains and farmer-buyer linkages, right? So from your perspective, what are the most innovative approaches to building stronger, more reliable market connections for smallholders? And at the same time, how can cold chain strengthen value chains beyond just reducing post-harvest losses?
Thank you, Daniel. Very interesting conversations. So before we go ahead, we need first understand what is market linkage. Market linkage basically covers how food gets to you, right? My presentation would explore the connection with innovative cold storage technology and how we can unlock predictable income, reduce risk, and enable scalable investments. In order for us to talk about how we can unlock these opportunities, we need to first talk about what market linkage is. It's basically more than just transactions. It refers to the connection from farmers to aggregators to logistics operators to buyers, and ensures the flow basically from the farm to the market. So typically it will require us connecting with supply from the farm and connecting with demand from the market and connecting both intercity and last mile with the delivery. Now, why strong linkages are essential for growth? First of all, we would capture reduction in information asymmetry. Due to my work here in Nigeria, when we built the solar-powered cold storage in Abuja, one of the key things we needed to align was how the food supply chain companies will work with, which are basically aggregators, how they supply their customers based on our cooling as a service model. And one of the key things we observed was, in order for market linkage to happen, we needed to connect how they source their produce together with price, place, and product. So one of the key things to do, which I discovered was instrumental for us to ensure that the connection is possible in order for us to validate the cooling as a service model, was to quickly identify farmer hubs in which we could connect each of the aggregators we work with. We noticed one of the challenges they had where they had different sources of buying their produce, right? And because of the misalignment in various ways, they had to look at the price eventually when they consider a cooling as a service option to their customer. So one of the things we did was connect with a farmer approach at the option to see how they can get greater margins on using the cold room as a supply chain. So yes, why strong linkage is essential for growth is for us to capture market access. We'll first need to ensure that there's a symmetry between price, product, and where they source their produce. So the core problem is, without reliable market access and quality assurance, farmers underutilize essential infrastructure and lenders hesitate to finance scale. Most horticulture, this statistics is from FAO. The data shows that most post-harvest losses happen immediately after harvest, which is basically handling, transport, and at market. And interestingly, the poll captures effectively that challenge. In regions like Nigeria, fragmented demand and inconsistent cold chain infrastructure creates severe pricing swings and unacceptable levels of waste, which is a failure of infrastructure and coordination. The lack of predictable market offtake prevents forward contracting and aggregation, locking farmers into a cycle of low investment and distressed sales. So this is just an overview of the challenges that you face as a stakeholder in the value chain, whether as a farmer, as an aggregator, buyer, cold room operator, or finance provider. You will relate at least to one of these things that is highlighted in this slide. For down to the question, innovative approaches for us to strengthen linkage. For us to have that innovative approach, we need to build stronger, reliable linkages, which require systemic shift and business model innovations, moving beyond just hardware solutions. So one of the key is cooling as a service model, which other speakers have highlighted, which is the pay-per-use model or time-based model or subscription model, which reduces prohibitive capex barriers for farmers and aggregators, which enable shared infrastructure. And another key innovative approach is the cooling as a service model around communities. So for farmer clusters, which are basically farmers who do production in a particular location, one innovative approach is building solar-powered cold rooms at the farm gates, which reduces the time it takes from harvest to the market. That way, pre-cooling can start immediately. So yeah, so innovative approaches to strengthen linkage is aggregators co-invest or rent solar-powered cold rooms to support downstream farmers. So what that means is that companies who are on the cooling as a service arrangements, which are basically committee models, would partner with aggregators for them to store in the cold room and now distribute to their customers. So basically, they manage intakes, grading, and mass sales. Through that model, these aggregators can effectively connect to commodity markets, which are way more structured, right, to ensuring a stronger ecosystem linkage. For markets that are not commodity markets, for example, e-commerce and retail markets, strategic connection with logistics and distributor hubs, which functions based on the same cooling as a service arrangement. Logistics operators install cold rooms near markets, clusters, and distribution corridors. These offer short-term storage and last-mile distribution. So depending on where the cold storage is located, at the farm gate, it's an aggregation center. At the market, it's a distribution center. Then for digitization of the whole process, we now link them through cold room inventory, for example, the Cultivate app, which digitize the existing process of these farmers. But one key innovative approach in which we need to outline is public-private partnership hubs. For example, majority of transactions that happen from existing food supply chain actors running e-commerce and retail are basically at market hubs. For us to ensure innovative approach to strengthen linkages, what I mean by strengthening linkages is promoting the cooling as a service model is for partnership between private investors or cooling operators with market leaders or associations or basically people who run these market hubs, which could be local governments or market union partners. With that approach, we can get most of the trucks, which comes from the northern part of majorly upstream, to now store within the cold room. So that is a more effective public-private-led partnership to scale adoption and reduce investment risks associated with product market fit for strengthening linkages. So in summary, for innovative approaches, for commodity exchanges that have existing structures, placing solar-powered cold rooms at farm clusters enables all year-round supply for commodity exchanges. For e-commerce and retail market, public-private partnerships would enable scale for existing traditional markets to have retailers at the market to use these cold rooms for their distribution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Majid. I think that was excellently done, well explained. You shared a very powerful perspective on how our strategic market linkages and smart, cold chain system can transform value chains. So for us, this is very clear. And I also like the fact that you touch upon the integration of digital platforms, reliable off-takers, and then trust-based relationship, right? Because these are key in making sure that there is an efficient market access to to farmers. So this is good. Thank you once again. Before we move to our Q&A session, because we want to allow enough time for questions, and then we also ask the speakers again. But before we move to that session, I would love to hear from the audience once more. So let's take a quick poll. Great. Thanks a lot. Where do you see the greatest opportunity to strengthen farmer to market linkages? Okay. Since this is there's enough thinking on this poll, I could imagine. I would allow a few more seconds. Okay, great. You could see that it's between digital platform and traceability systems, solar power code room as collection and aggregation center, as Majid highlighted just now. And also, there's also a lot of people going for off-take partnership with agri businesses. So, in my view, I would say all these make sense because this reflects how technology and data transparency, for instance, are becoming game changers in connecting farmers to higher value markets, as in the case of Cultivate app, for instance. And then you could see how Dennis and Thomas also highlighted on the different models partnership with agri businesses. So this makes sense. I don't know, Mr. Majid, do you want to quickly just touch upon these poll results?
Yeah. So the greatest opportunity to strengthen farmer market linkage, I think those are very strategic within the landscape of Africa in terms of the opportunities, both at the aggregation and distribution center. So yes, I agree. Solar powered cold rooms as collection and aggregation centers appropriately for depending on you as a stakeholders and how you operate within the value chain. If you operate within the commodity exchange, yes, perfect. But you also need to factor the distance of your logistics. Where are you picking up your produce from? Where is your aggregation center? How far is your market? So yes, connecting solar-powered cold rooms with distribution centers are perfect for us to enable or strengthen that linkage.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Majid. Maybe I should open up the Q&A session, and then if we don't have a lot of questions, then I'll come back to Thomas and Dennis. So do we have questions? Let me check. Okay, I can't see any questions yet. So no, so this is good because it's an opportunity to then bring up Mr. Thomas and Mr. Dennis, or probably all the speakers. So I have one more question to ask all of you. If there is just one thing that could make market linkage truly unlock the scalability of solar-powered code room or cold chain for smallholder farmers, in your view, what would that be? I'll probably start with Thomas.
Thanks, Daniel. I think it's a great question. And I think my answer will be related to the last poll where we've seen that off-take partnerships, I think, are key to unlock this market linkages, because I mean, having aggregation centers is great, but if you have nobody to buy your produce at the end of the day, you won't be able to generate value both for the farmers and for your company. So I think the main level for scale will really be to convince the off-takers that there's a business case for solar core storage. And as Dennis said earlier, because of the
You think we lost
Thomas?
Thomas?
I think we lost you a bit. Just before he comes back online, just to say, probably just to the audience, please feel free to drop your questions. so that the panelists could tackle them. If you have any, please drop them. Or otherwise, I'll go to Dennis. Dennis,
Yes.
it's a question to you.
Yeah. So one, it's really important to have consistent demand. So we've seen even for ourselves, the moment we are able to figure out the demand side and to align the demand to supply, then it actually becomes much easier, because each and every one of the kilos of produce being harvested is earmarked for market. I think the other bit is also that for market linkages to be effective, there also has to be sort of a better understanding of the expectations of the customer and what the farmers have in terms of, even if it's a fruit, it's not just, you don't go shake the tree and put all of them in a sack. There are some procedures that have to be done when it comes to to harvesting and post-harvest work that are really critical towards making sure that the product is suitable for the market it's going to, that the off-taker on the other side also has a very low rejection rate that makes them to be a repeat customer. So we find that there is still some work around capacity building in terms of harvesting techniques, harvesting tools, buyer understanding of the buyer requirements in terms of grammage, physical characteristics of fruits or vegetables, etc. That has to happen on the farmer end for farmers to be able to really step up to the opportunity that guaranteed demand unlocks for them.
Perfect, super. No, Dennis, I think you addressed this very well. Thank you so much. Before I go to Majid, Thomas, do you want to finish your thought earlier?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Apology for that. I don't know when it cut off, but I think for me the main lever is really the fact that you need to convince the off-takers that there is a business case for solar cold storage.
Yes.
Because as we've seen before, like in the Venn diagram, the addressable market for solar cold storage is quite small. So you need to expand it, and the best placed organization for that are really the off-takers.
Yeah. Great. Thanks a lot, Thomas. Majid, over to you.
Yeah, I think ensuring the cold rooms are linked perfectly to the market is key. As far as you run a solar powered cold room, I think one of the key. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. So one of the key things I believe is for ready markets to sign up, be registered to a cold room, to create a structure around cold rooms. That way, aggregators by default supply cold rooms for distribution to manufacturers, to processors, and all. So for me, that's market alignment is one key thing that would work for me to unlock scalability. Once a manufacturer or a processor by default knows that if he wants fresh produce, he goes to a solar-powered cold room, then of course, we have automatically activated a new structure around how we do e-commerce and retail.
Perfect, Majid. No, this is great. I like the fact that you mentioned code room as the central piece to unlocking scalability. So I think this is great. We have a few questions here. I'll read them and then ask one of you to maybe tackle this. So the first question says, to what extent does climate change undermine these investments in agricultural infrastructure? To what extent does climate change undermine these investments in agricultural infrastructure? Maybe I would hand over this to Thomas, maybe, if you want to.
I think climate change is a great opportunity, if we can say that, for solar cold storage companies, because the need for cold storage will be more important. But then the production will be less reliable, so the companies will need to be very resilient, so that they can ensure that there is enough sourcing if they have partnered with off-takers to buy their produce.
Perfect. I think that makes sense. Thanks, Thomas. I have another question for Dennis. In the unstructured market, how we work around with these middlemen? How do we work around with these middlemen?
Yeah, so my thought, so one, in unstructured markets, what we found is that everyone recognizes still the issue of post-harvest loss. But then for most middlemen, they would price it in the price they give the farmer. So they've already accounted for 30-40% of the produce that they are sourcing will not be accepted when it gets to the buyer. So I see middlemen as really one of the great opportunities for adoption of this technology as well, where they can work, because they are mostly farmers or entrepreneurs within those regions. And they are the ones who often have already done the math of how much it's costing to lose the produce. So there is an opportunity to build a case for them to adopt this cold storage, provide it to the farmers that they were sourcing from, and be able to unlock better incomes for the farmers. Because if you had priced in a 40% discount on the price you give the farmer because of food loss, if now your food loss is at 2%, there is opportunity for them to actually provide more incomes in the communities where they are sourcing.
Perfect. Indeed, Dennis, thanks a lot for that. Then there's another question which I think Majid fits nicely to what you shared earlier. There is some precedent of off-takers investing in local CAPEX in order to help secure supply. To what extent is this an opportunity for cold chain proliferation? Should I read it again?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, okay. There is some precedent of off-takers investing in local CAPEX in order to help secure supply. Now, to what extent is this an opportunity for cold chain proliferation? Majid, are you there?
All right. So for off-takers themselves, investing in their cold chain process, they are more or less having control over their value chain and distribution to their own market, right? But one thing is critical for us to scale the business of cold storage in Nigeria or in Africa is for us to collaborate and work together. No one person can do this alone, right? One key thing is for us to choose our role within the value chain and collaborate. If we intend to scale, we need to collaborate for us to do that. The market in Nigeria is huge. We produce 2 million metric tons of onions. And how many cold storage can an off-taker, a single private investor, take? Right. So imagine we have an investor who actively validates his own model for building a solar-powered cold room in Abuja. And you as a e-commerce and retail operator is now working to distribute to your customers. That way, collaborating, we can unlock more funding support from international development and local commercial banks for us to scale. So yes, there's some precedence of off-taker investing in local CAPEX in order to help secure supply, but we can actually unlock a very bigger and broader market when we do this together.
Yeah, no, great. I agree with you, Majid.
If I could just chime in a bit.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So we've actually seen also in markets like Kenya where off-takers had previously invested in CAPEX, but see the limitation of the fact that they need to invest way more money to be able to serve a larger production base in terms of farmers, and providing opportunities for them to have cold storage as OPEX rather than CAPEX is really sort of like a light bulb moment for their management, because then they can focus on what they are good at, which is finding the markets, and leverage on companies like ourselves who can provide the CAPEX and maintenance, etc. And it's also a good justification for standing the need for cold chain. When you see already, off-takers and other private actors really investing their own money, it shows that there is an opportunity to be able to sort of bring a level of disruption where people stop looking at it as, you have to have the capital for capex to be able to make an investment. As Majida said, if everyone plays their role, the cold storage companies have room to be able to grow and provide this infrastructure to as many off-takers and farmer groups as they need. And the off-takers can focus on finding local, regional, and international markets for the produce.
Yeah, indeed, perfect. I completely agree with you. I don't know if Thomas, you want to share any thoughts on this?
No, definitely agree with Dennis and Majid.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I personally think that there is a real opportunity here, because when off-takers co-invest, right, in local cold storage, for instance, whether it's direct or through partnership, they create incentives for quality, for reliability, and even for the volume of the produce. But I would like to also emphasize that if designed well, so meaning we have to design this, the whole idea of capex investment. So if designed well, then the potential of off-takers participation becomes very high, and this could be one of the strongest levelers for accelerating cold chain adoption across Africa, right? So it's important that we mention that this needs to be properly, done. Great. I don't know, Majid, you wanted to say something? I think.
Yeah. Remember the purpose of this project. Africa generally have a larger volume of smallholder farmers, right? And they can't build their own infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you as an off-taker would need to off-take from them.
Yeah.
So it's for the purpose of scaling, or it's great when there is collaboration. We can unlock more when, except if you build that infrastructure and you now have to invest in your own farming and your own value chain all at the same time.
Yeah.
So yes, it's key for everybody to connect and work together.
Yeah, indeed.
For us to validate the cooling as a service model.
Indeed. No, this is right. This makes sense to me, and great insights, everyone. We don't have more questions. Then maybe we could go with to some questions I have already prepared for you both before we wrap up. I don't know if that's fine. Yeah, I think that should be fine. So maybe to you, Thomas, because I kind of find what you do very intriguing, right? So I would like to know what were the most surprising insights from your research on market access for agro-PURE technologies, and what based on these findings, what do you think practitioners should do differently moving forward?
Thanks, Daniel. I think the most surprising insights, except the fact that market access has a great impact on both the companies and the farmers, we are quite surprised by the number of companies who pivoted, because we mapped around 60 companies throughout our study. And among these 60 companies, only 3 had market access at inception. But then after a few years of operation, this number grew from 3 to almost 20. So despite the complexity of providing this market access, they decided to facilitate market access to the farmers because they've seen that it was necessary both to improve their business model, but also for scaling. And on your second question on what should practitioners do differently moving forward, I think it will be key for practitioners to embed this market access into their business model from the outset, because we've seen that it's very difficult to retrofit this market access into their model. And to do so, they should first assess the different criteria that we've seen in the Venn diagram. So understand what are the value chains where there is a business case for solar cooling, who are the off-takers operating in these value chains, do I offer the most cost-effective option for the farmers, And finally, do the farmers have access to markets? And if they find that this the viable market is large enough, yeah, it's great. Because then they can directly target these smallholder farmers who already have a business case, access to markets, and for which solar is a good solution. And if not, we've seen companies that decided to facilitate this market access themselves with different level of integration. So either you just aggregate the farmers, like Dennis and Majid are doing, because you can then have bigger volumes with enough quality, and you can partner directly with off-takers who will buy the produce from the farmers. But if there are no off-takers that can buy the produce from your farmers, you can basically become an off-taker. And it's, for example, it's what Promethean in India is doing, and also what Socofresh is doing on the avocado value chain in Kenya. And by doing that, you will be able to control the whole value chain and also to generate additional value from the sales of the produce that you're purchasing.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. I mean, this is great. I would, due to time constraint, I will go straight to Dennis. Dennis, I have one question for you, and then that should be like your closing thoughts. From the poll, you could see that there were a couple of business models. So the question is, have you tested different business model? And then if yes, what would you say is the most profitable for you as a business? And what's your take generally? Just in 1 minute, please.
Yes, so we've tested all the business models. They are relevant for different kinds of farmers. For example, contract farmers, we've tested the lease model and it works ideally there. For other smallholder farmers, you have to group them and do the pay as you store or just bundle it together with market access. Obviously, the simpler business model like direct lease is easier to manage and more profitable, but has limited number of farmers we can serve. The rest, the other one where we bundle market access and cold storage is the most complicated. It's difficult at the start to make it work, but is highly scalable. So we run both at the same time. I think what we've seen is the biggest challenge, especially when you're running the one for market access, is also that you then have to start figuring out working capital, especially where we're buying from the farmers the produce. So it adds a bit more complexity, but when we look at the impact to the farmers, it really solves the issues of the farmers completely. Like what kept them awake at night is now resolved. So there's great potential for impact, but also a lot of hard work required from the entrepreneurs to make it work.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Just due to time, I will go to Majid. Majid, just in 1 minute or even less, what do you think is so? What is the most significant experience for you in piloting the Smartcoolmarket in Cultivate app in Nigeria?
Yeah. So for me, the farmers have the farmers prefer immediate sales over storage, and there's usually a misalignment of their needs in relation to storage, right? So one of the key things lessons I've learned was to help them connect them with aggregation opportunities, right? Which is basically market access. Second, the daily transport of produce to and from the cold room is inconvenient, especially where the farms is far from the cold rooms. So one of the key things I've learned from the Smartcoolmarket is to discover innovative ways in which instead of you requiring them to bring the produce to the cold room, you pick it up and send it to the cold room for distribution.
Yeah. Majid, thanks a lot.
So
sorry, I have to cut you short there because we are running out of time. So,
yeah.
so thank you a lot. I mean, it would be unfair if we also end without engaging the audience. So I think we have one more poll just to wrap this up for the audience. It would be nice to know your thoughts in one word. I'm bringing up the poll now. Just a moment. Okay. So in one word, what's the biggest enabler of market access for smallholder farmers? Just what in one word? Just what is in your? What are you thinking? What's on your mind? Just based on what you've heard, based on the learnings that you've received today, what would you say is the biggest enabler of market access for smallholder farmers? Awareness, nice. A few more seconds, and then we close. Great awareness, off-taker guarantees, partnership, awareness seems aggregation. Awareness seems to be the most, the one with the largest votes, so which makes sense. Even from our pilot in Nigeria and other parts of the global south, this is something that we also saw as one of as a possible, probably the biggest enabler for market access. No, thank you so much. So no, great. Thank you so much to all the speakers for these very rich insights, and also to our audience for actively engaging through the polls. We've learned a lot today. I personally have learned a lot today from the importance of market access to business model innovation, to digitalization of the code room, and so on and so forth. So this is good, and I hope that we're going to continue the conversation outside this platform, and in order to drive the needed change that we're trying to enable in Sub-Saharan Africa and also in the global south in general. Before the next session, which is to wrap up this very great summit, I also want to highlight that you can scan the QR code on your screen, access the different videos, the comic strip, and a lot of materials that we have in stock. And also, in case you have any question, you could send an email to info@yourvcca.org. And you can stay connected, by subscribing to the base newsletter. We often have a lot of information. Trust me, there's usually updates literally every month. So please do well to subscribe to this. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you once more to the speakers. This has been very engaging. Thank you all.